We'll start. Let me say good evening again to you. I'm William Kojo Ajimaibonsu. I'm with the Climate Change Secretariat. You're welcome to this side event, which has been organized by Secretariat, looking at the technical briefing on NAMAs and also support for NAMA preparation and implementation under the registry. We'll also have the occasion to look at the NDC registry, which is also being made available to parties prepared by the Secretariat. During this side event, we had the opportunity to listen to a presentation of the NDC registry, where we have a live demo of the registry shown to you. And then we'll have a quick presentation on the operation of the NAMA registry in 2016. We would also have the opportunity to have an announcement by Vanuatu in terms of the marching that they have been able to achieve under the registry between them and I understand Switzerland, Austria. And then we have our colleague Miriam from UNFCCC also presenting on the linkages between NAMA and NDCs. And after that, we'll have the opportunity to open the floor for you to ask questions, if any. So I would encourage you to note your questions as we go through the agenda, so at least we have some lively discussions later on. Without further ado, I'd want to request Cladifona, who's also a program officer with the Climate Change Secretariat, to present to you the public registry for national determined contribution.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here. The presentation is going to be divided into two. I want just to introduce the mandate and speak to how the Secretary is implementing this process of registration of NDCs upon ratification. So could you go to the next slide? So just as an introduction, you know that the Paris Agreement, it's about one very important thing, which is to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change, and it addresses three main areas. The main one, or well, actually not the main one, but the one that is really quantified is the temperature goal. We also have adaptation as part of the broad objective, and then finance. The registry, if you go to the next one, the registry is it's a platform that was agreed as part of the Paris Agreement. At the time, they were calling about housing NDCs. So you can think of it as one way of how countries are going to formalize their NDCs as part of the Paris Agreement. And if I may explain with how Kyoto did it, if you look at Kyoto, Kyoto had the commitments as an annex to the instrument. Negotiations under the Paris Agreement considered various options. You know that if something is part of the agreement, as in Kyoto, as part of an annex it gives a legally binding character to it. So they moved away from that. Of course, as I said, the Paris Agreement makes more emphasis on the collective goal rather than on individual ones. So the way that parties are recording, the way the Paris Agreement houses the different NDCs of parties is through the registry. And this is, you see there, Article 4.2, which is the call for these NDCs, and then Article 4, Paragraph 12, which refers to the registry. Gopal, could you go to the next? Now, I wanted to provide a little bit of information on what is happening with the first NDCs, because this has not been, it is not very clear, or the Paris Agreement itself is not explicit on how this process takes. So you know that in the run-up to Paris, there was a call for something called intended nationally determined contributions. So that was part of a national process that culminated in Paris, with almost all parties having submitted one. At the same time, the Paris Agreement was being negotiated. So naturally, the next step would be to look at these contributions and try to formalize them, because the agreement was already formulated. So the process to formulate these first NDCs is explained in the decision. And it consists of the following. The decision invited parties to communicate their first NDCs no later than ratification. So the decision is nothing else than starting the NDC cycle by saying, could you please, parties, you know that you have a commitment to communicate an NDC, please do it when you ratify. But it also took note that these INDCs have been communicated, and this was partly because a lot of the parties took a lot of effort in bringing together these INDCs, and they did not want to go through another process of submitting a new one. So for a large number of parties, it was important to have the possibility of just making an automatic conversion from INDCs into NDCs. And that's what basically the decision says. Of course, a party can decide that its NDC is not automatically converted, but submit a revised one. Above all, because the INDC has no legal status. What really has legal status, what really belongs to the Paris Agreement, is the NDC. Would you tell us? So how's the procedure? This is quite a boring and bureaucratic process, but it needs to be explained so everybody understands what the Secretary is doing. So what we're doing as Secretary is, at the moment in which the party ratifies the Paris Agreement, we execute the provisions of this paragraph, and what we do is we take the INDC that is in the UNFCCC website, and we automatically put it, well, not automatically, Vlad actually and Gopal take it manually and then put it on the NDC registry, basically formalizing it. If a party does not want that to happen, then it has to say, to tell us, to say, dear Secretariat, we decide otherwise. So we have ratified the Paris Agreement, but please do not convert that INDC into NDC. And in the next slide, this is the status, what we have seen so far. So for example, we know that so far 103 parties have ratified the Paris Agreement. So we would have converted automatically these 103 INDCs into NDCs, but that didn't happen because it only happened for 87 countries. That means that the difference it's of parties that well, either they revised their NDC and already sent it, or are currently revising their NDCs. Above all, we have these 10 revisions made to INDCs prior to they being registered in the registry, and then we have 6 parties that are currently looking at their NDCs. And I think that that's my presentation. No, then Vlad is going to run you more on the specifics of the registry. So, sorry, are you good doing it? Yeah.
So, so I would like to pick up from where Claudio left. So this is the structure or the public page of the interim NDC registry, which was became live on last May, and you can access this registry by following that link given on the top of the slide. So it basically have 2 components. One part is the public landing page, which basically available and accessible to all the public, general public, who are interested to browse the information regarding the NDC submission. And second part is only for the parties to submit, upload, revise the documents relating to the NDC submission. So by using your UNFCCC user account and associated login credentials, the registry will allow you to enter into the closed submission portal, and you can see that there is a button for the submitting the NDC, submitting or uploading NDC documents, as well as if you want to put additional information in the form of party note, you have also that space to provide that kind of information. So in submitting your documents, you basically can submit 3 kinds of documents: the main document of NDC, or if there is any translation or any kind of supporting or addenda, you can upload as a part of your NDC submission. So These submitted documents will, once it is submitted by you, comes to the registry administrator, and the secretariat will conduct a basic security check before making them available on public web page. But it doesn't mean that we'll go through any investigation or any review. Just in terms of the internet security, we'll check the documents, and if we find everything okay, then it goes to the public web page. So once it is submitted, at any time party can return to the submission portal by using login credential to submit revised or new documents. So but already submitted or already published documents cannot be removed from the registry. So that means the registry will store or record or house all the different versions of the same documents if it has been submitted by the parties. So now I would like to take the live web page of the NDC registry.
So we had a similar event in Bonn in May when we showed the participants the interim registry that was created and put in operation in May, and we started to collect the views of the parties that were present, and also the ones that were sent to us of the dedicated mail that you will see in the presentation. And also during the period after we put it in operation, we had a survey for the public to get comments on how the public is operating the registry. Based on these two activities, we managed to collect various observations and comments from you. And based on this, we took the interim registry that was showed in May, and we put it on the pathway to make some changes to enhance especially the user friendliness, the accessibility. You will see my colleague Gopal will show you in a minute about the new features of the registry. We also made it possible for use the interim registry on mobile devices, which is also a new feature, and also the reading of the submission dates, and especially the possibility to search. So I will ask now Gopal to walk you through this the changes, especially now that we are doing a live demo with you. So Gopal, please.
Yeah, as mentioned by Vlad, we have improved some in the search function basically. So in the search function, you can search any NDC by three kind of search criteria. If by parties, first thing you can do by parties. So you can type any party you want to search. So it will take you to the search results. So basically, the name of the party which is mentioned in the document or in the country page will appear here. So from there you can enter into the individual country page. So in the country page, basically you will have the party note, as I explained earlier. In addition to NDC documents, if you have provided any additional information or clarification, you can find on that party page section. And at the bottom, you'll find all the documents submitted by that particular party. Here the title and type of language and submission date. And as we have heard about the maintenance of the historical record, so you can see that the submission date. So every document whichever is uploaded and submitted and made public, it will show the name, type of the document, name of the document, as well as submission date. So it will track the historical record, whether when and how it was submitted and revised. So in addition to that, in the search function, you can also use the specific keywords like energy or any word you want to search. So by based on that search criteria, it will result into the various results. So and in the search button, we have also introduced some basic information how you can utilize this search functionality. Similar to that, we have also provided some information on the login approach or the way for the login. And as per the reviews, as per the suggestion received, we have also introduced the counters that will show the numbers of the parties that have submitted their NDC. And similar to next search function, you can also search all the NDCs by alphabetical order. And for that, you can go to the specific country, or you can have a glance of all submitted NDC documents. Likewise, we have also provided some information to the Paris Agreement and how you can communicate the NDCs. So these are the basic updates or improvements that Vlad was referring to.
Okay, so thank you very much, Claudio, Vlad, and Gopal for the presentation. I understand that Claudio would need to quickly jump out because he needs to work on the test for the on the NDC registry. Before Claudio jumps off, you can ask before he leaves. So I'll open the floor for a few minutes to take some questions if there are any. Otherwise, I will continue with the program. Are there any quick questions for clarification? Yes. Mary, can you get a microphone? Please identify yourself and then ask your questions.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. My name is Kamal. I'm from Cambodia. Thank you, Claudia, for your presentation. I'd like you to give a bit clarification about the automatic conversion of the NDC. I may miss some point while you talk, but I think that automatic conversion of INDC to NDC may sometimes need clarification or notification from the country party or not. Thank you very much.
So yeah, maybe I explained that too quickly. So if a party is going to ratify the Paris Agreement, and this party has submitted already an INDC, before it ratifies the Paris Agreement, it should send us an email to NDCs. It's the same address that you saw in the presentation. So the secretary needs to receive an email indicating that we don't convert the INDC. If we do not receive this email, we'll take the INDC and put it in the registry. Of course, notifications are always sent to parties, but we never know when ratification is coming. So this is why we're reaching out to parties. Question? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Otherwise, we will.
Colombia. Yes. Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Colombia. Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, Ivan Valencia from Colombia. Had a question about the search functionality. So how developed is that? Does it search any piece of text in all INDCs, or is it more topical, or how does it work?
The search function basically looks for the search which is included inside the document. So as for example, if you search for the renewable energy or target or anything, so it will basically look inside the document, not only the topic or not only the title of the documents.
It is basically the Google search. It's a similar.
Okay, so then we move on to Gopal, looking at the operation of the NAMA registry in the year 2016. Gopal, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. My presentation will basically deal with a little bit background about the NAMA registry, then operational status of the registry in 2016. And if you have any question, then I will be happy to answer it. So you may recall the mandates for the UNFCCC NAMA registry, which we have received in CP 16 and CP 17 as a platform to record NAMA submitted by the countries requesting for the support and international recognition. So based on that mandate, the function of the NAMA registry is basically you can categorize into two parts. First thing, record the NAMAs that are seeking international support, international recognition, which are being implemented or already implemented with the help of domestic resources. And second type of NAMA seeking international support either for implementation or preparation. And at the same time, the organization, parties or institutions which have a global support program or national support program targeted to the NAMAs can also provide record their information on availability of in terms of finance or capacity building or technical support. And based on that information available for NAMA seeking support, seeking for support, as that information on support available, this NAMA registry intends to facilitate the matching of NAMAs with the support based on the enhanced partnership and communication between the interested stakeholders. So basically, the NAMA registry has two components. As I mentioned earlier, first component is the database, which contains the information about the NAMAs looking for support, information on the support available. At the same time, it also records the information support received or provided till now. And at the same time, it also contains the interface for the party or the countries who wants to submit NAMAs for the support, as well as submit for the recognition. Also, interested in organization can input the information on support available, and browsing information or performing query both can be done in the public page as well as internal page for the parties. So basically, for the NAMA registry, we have three main key stakeholder: NAMA approver, who are the national focal point of the country appointed for the NAMA. At the same time, NAMA developer, other organization or institution involved in the NAMA development. At the same time, you can see the support editor who provides the information on the support available. So they can interact with the registry to input or to record their information. So to support the users in using the NAMA registry, the secretary is basically providing the technical support at the same time, generating technical materials and engaging with the reach out activities, so that we can enhance the information in the registry as well as facilitate the matching of the support with the NAMAs. So one of the key activities that Secretariat at the moment is doing is profiling, raising the profile or marketing the NAMA that are recorded in the registry. So we are selecting the few example NAMAs for the purpose of NAMA marketplace, which is basically a forum where we invite the potential support providers as well as the NAMA proponents from the country to present their NAMAs in front of the panelists. And the basic objective of this NAMA marketplace is to initiate the discussion or the collaboration between the countries and the potential support providers. And so for this NAMA marketplace, we are selecting NAMAs which are recorded in our NAMA registry. At the same time, to raise the profile or to create the awareness, we are using the various communication channels, UNFCCC website as well as NAMA News, dedicated website for the NAMA. as well as social media, and we are also generating the NAMA profiles based on the information recorded in the registry to create more outreach and profile. So based on this participation, what we have received the feedback from the parties that NAMA registry is a place for promotion, marketing their initiatives, their NAMA initiatives. At the same time, it provides a platform for gaining the visibility. So it by recording NAMAs in the NAMA registry, it will also increase the probability for obtaining the international support. So at the same time, it is also working as the authentic and official source for collecting, gathering, or browsing the information or sharing the knowledge on NAMAs and support needed and available for NAMAs. So based on now, I would like to enter into the second part of my presentation, which is basically will provide you the updated information regarding the operation of NAMA registry in 2016. So this slide would basically show that the countries or users are showing interest to use the NAMA registry, which is corroborated by the increasing number of users in 2016. You can see that in 2016 we have saw 13% increase in overall NAMA registry users, which means now as of today about 63% of developing countries have now access rights or the rights to use the NAMA registry. That means they can now submit and record NAMAs in the registry. So at the same time, you can see the various region-wise the distribution of the countries. So this the second participation in terms of the NAMAs recorded in the registry. In terms of that information, you can see that the NAMA recorded in 2016 has been increased by nearly 35% as compared to the 2015, which means by region-wise, you can see that LDCs has seen a remarkable increase as 115%, as well as followed by African states and Asia Pacific states. So the below chart shows that in every region except the Eastern European states, about 20% of the countries have now recorded the information in the NAMA registry. So this slide will display the regional and the distribution of NAMAs by type and regional group, and you can see that Asia Pacific states are catching up Latin American region in terms of submitting and recording their NAMAs, and we have seen that participation of African and LDCs and seed is also very much increasing, which diversifies the regional distribution of NAMAs. And at the same time, we have also noticed that recently countries, the number of NAMAs seeking support for preparation is equaling with the NAMAs seeking support for implementation, which shows that now countries are more interested to receive international support also to develop first and then look for the implementation. And this slide shows the sectoral distribution as before. Energy supply and energy efficiency also dominates the sector covered by these recorded NAMAs. And it is very interesting to know that the residential, agriculture, waste management, transport, even transport sector are also well represented in terms of this recorded NAMAs. So from this slide, we can conclude that in terms of sector also, the NAMAs has been diversified. So this slide basically presents the support sought by the countries for the NAMAs preparation and implementation. So the most part of majority portion of the support required is sought for the implementation, definitely. So as of today, around 8 billion has been sought for the implementation and preparation of the NAMAs. And this slide shows the type of financial support and targeted actions. So the most countries are looking for the grants, followed by concessional loan, and some countries are also looking for the using carbon financing or market mechanism for the implementation of these NAMAs. And most countries are looking to implement sectoral or national or sectoral level policy or program to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. So all the cost required for the total estimated cost for all these recorded NAMAs accumulates to around 22 billion US dollar. And in terms of support required, they have mentioned around 8.23 billion. The major chunk is for in terms of financial support, followed by the technological and capacity building. And the registry has recorded as of now 18 support sources, and we have been managed to record matching between 16 NAMAs with the support recorded within the registry, which the support amount accumulates to the 34 million. But in addition to that, there was recording of the support provided. The countries and the support providers has also provided information support received or provided outside the registry. That means those sources are not recorded as recorded to the registry aid, and that kind of support accumulates to around 2.8 billion US dollar. So, and based on the recent survey that we conducted for the registry users or NAMA entries, we found that some still majority of the recorded NAMAs are seeking or waiting international support for their preparation or implementation, but some few NAMAs has already started their implementation, and we hope that this will continue in due course of time. So in case of you need further information or any technical support for the using of the NAMA registry, these are the various communication means that you can connect to us. And the detailed information regarding the operation of registry in 2016, we have prepared one annual report for the consideration of conference of parties, which can be accessed in the link given on the slide. And at the same time, if you have any queries or suggestion or any feedback, you can write to us the email given on the slide. I would like to conclude my presentation here.
Okay, thank you very much, Gopal. I think presentation and maybe stimulating a lot of questions. I already see a request for the floor, but before we do that, I think I would want to link it up with the presentation by our colleague from Vanuatu, Mr. Jesse Benjamin, Director General Change Vanuatu, and explain the Vanuatu experience in terms of how they have received support from Austria for the preparation of the NAMA. Jesse.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good evening, everyone. Well, for Vanuatu, for the development of the NAMA, we have the final NAMA approved in 2015. We developed the NAMA, and then we at the Paris, before the Paris COP, we have concluded on the NAMA, and so during the COP in Paris, before going on further, I'd acknowledge the support of UNDP as well, whom they assisted us, Vanuatu, to actually develop the NAMA. And from that, thanks to COPAL as well, which provide assistance in actually having the having our NAMA on the NAMA registry, registered on the NAMA registry. So in 2000, last year during COP 21 in Paris, we had an opportunity to actually approach the Austrian delegation to seek the support in supporting us with the NAMA, and from there we had some discussions, and thanks to Dr. Trudy,
It's always like
who we sort of get in touch with her, and by also they got interested in our NAMA, which was on the registry, and so we had some discussions, and I'm glad to say that by next week we will be having our ministers signing the letter of intent on the support for our NAMA, and basically UNDP assisted us to our NAMA is focused on electrification, rural electrification, because we have a national energy policy which I mean, for Vanuatu we have only 30% of our population who have access to electricity, and so our NAMA is developed around access to electricity using renewable energy, and there's two parts to it. One is basically the grid extensions, and the other is microgrids. And based on the discussions that we have and the signing that will take place next week, we're looking at around roughly maybe around $1 million to actually support the activities in the NAMA, in our NAMA. And so yeah, basically that's from us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good example in terms of how the registry has been working over the years. I'll give the floor. Please identify yourself. The representative from Austria, I don't know whether Trude you want to add also make some comments. You can do that if you want to. But yes, before that, just ask your question. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Matthias Honegger. I'm with Perspectives. And of course, it's very encouraging to hear the success story from Vanuatu. And I was also very intrigued to hear about the sort of marketplace that you described. And I'm not sure if this is a new activity that the Secretariat is undertaking to enable matchmaking between donors and NAMA proponents. As someone who's been working on some NAMAs, I'm very much curious how one can advise parties or NAMA proponents as to how they should be advancing with their NAMAs in a way that is most useful then to be addressed in the matchmaking process. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit on the sort of aspects that you're looking for when you select NAMAs for participation in the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional question or comment? Yes. Well, I'll take a colleague from Colombia and then I'll come to you.
Yes, thank you. Just like to inquire, what's the procedure to update a NAMA record from the country perspective, but also from the donor perspective when they provide support to NAMAs? Is there like a way to record that, or is the donor that should provide support, or is the country, or should it be validated by both entities? How is that performed?
Okay, good. The last question. Please identify yourself.
My name is Antonio from Portugal. It's a very operational question. I would like to ask you, how much time does it take to have a NAMA registered, depending if it's for recognition, preparation, or implementation?
Okay, thank you very much. Gertrude, do you want to intervene at this point? Mary, can you pass the slide to?
Thank you. Just to thank Jesse and his team for the great cooperation that we've been having, and we will have in the future, I'm sure. And to maybe give a little explanation on our selection. What was attractive with this NAMA specifically was that it was it's very well prepared. The registry gives a lot of detail already, so that we knew what it was about. And another attractive component is that it's not one big chunk, but it's it consists of many smaller projects, so that we can draw the package together that is within our means. Because many very large NAMAs requiring a lot of support, they are in one big piece, so that if you don't have really a lot of money, it's not possible to provide sensible support, I would say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Gopal, would you want to respond to the questions?
Yes.
Quickly, because we need to also get the last presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. With regard to NAMA Marketplace, I mentioned earlier, we are choosing the such kind of NAMAs which are mature and ready for the implementation. And we and this kind of activities we are implementing since last year, couple of starting from 2015. So we are also getting more lesson learned how effectively use this platform. So based on the comments received that so far we have received from the panelists, that they are looking for the NAMAs which have the very strong financial planning in terms of the mechanisms, and similarly they also look for the NAMAs which have the which demonstrate the country ownership or country contribution. So those kind of the NAMAs, they are at the moment looking for the support. And regarding the update procedures, yes, if you have the UNFCCC user account or login credentials, you can access online to provide your information or to update your information. So anytime you can log in and you can update your information. In terms of the support provided or received, if you have received any support, if you identify the support source, then it goes to confirmation to the support provider. At the same time, if support provider identifies the support provided, that it comes to the national focal point or NAMA approver to confirm that you have received the support. So it works the both ways, and it is the online, so you can access at any time. And regarding the time to input the information in the NAMA registry, we have specific templates to provide the information. So if you have already collected information, or if you have already prepared the NAMA design documents, I think it won't take 10 to 20 minutes to upload the information if you have already collected the information. And this registry also allows you to upload the supporting documents attachments. So in the template, you'll just provide the basic overview, and the detailed information you can upload as a document. So for that, I think it won't take much time.
Okay, so thank you very much, Gopal, for that explanation. Now we move on to the next presentation, which will be done by Mariam from UNEP DTU. She will be presenting the links between NAMA and NDC, because now we're talking about NDC and why are we talking about NAMAs? And I think Maria will try to explain the link between the two and how useful the NAMA is for NDC implementation. Miriam. Please.
Thank you very much, William. And indeed, I will try to do the explanation of the linkages. Thank you very much again for inviting the UNFCCC partnership to be part of this interesting discussion. The UNFCCC partnership, as you know, for the past 10 years have been working in capacity building, starting with different aspects of climate change, starting from national communications, NAMAs, not viewers maybe, but then CDM, then a combination of NAMAs and low carbon development strategies and INDCs, and now moving on to NDC implementation. Why I'm mentioning this? Because for me, it can be easy to make those linkages, conceptually at least. So just also to remind us how the NAMA ended up being a tool or an instrument of for countries to move on or to deviate from business as usual emissions in 2020. Let's just remind briefly the process in the convention. So as you know, the term used for two types of mitigation actions. Those country voluntary goals, pledges pursuant to Cancun outcome on mitigation architecture for developing countries. So in this were of different natures, as you remember, economy-wide goals, absolute emission reductions, reductions below business as usual, emission intensity targets. And as I read this, you can already make the connections with the process to develop your INDCs. The policies, for example, renewable energy targets or sector targets, afforestation targets, etc., collection of specific mitigation actions, distributing heating, renovations, public transport infrastructure in urban areas, etc. So those are different goals that have been registered as well. Maybe I'm not using the correct term, but those goals or aspirations were also part of the process. Then specific mitigation actions as NAMAs for international support. As I said, this is connecting to 2020 ambition. Again, it was stated that by this time, developing countries at least should deviate the emissions from business as usual. And in this process, obviously, countries have invested not only efforts, but also money and time and everything, and have identified a number of, we could call them mitigation actions, mitigation measures, and nationally determined is what it makes particular as a NAMA. And the process of registering and all that has been explained already. So making the connection, those first pledges responding to the Cancun agreement can now be said that they are the NDCs. So the first category, at least, goal pledge is parallel to the developed country pledges on economy-wide emissions reduction targets below a base year on what could be now termed as NDCs. So what's next, please? Yes. In a nutshell, it's already being presented, the statistics and the process and where we are with regards to the INDCs and NDCs process. But in a nutshell, just to remind us what sort of categorization of INDCs are there. A wide range of targets goals depending on respective capabilities of countries for period starting from 2020, 2025 and 2030. So countries have presented different goals like absolute economy-wide emission targets, those that have said going to deviate from business as usual scenario, and others saying setting intensity targets, and those policies actions that measure and quantify emission reduction impacts. So this is in a nutshell the type of INDCs or NDCs now that have been presented to the Secretariat or to the convention. So what do we need now in terms of implementing INDCs? As you know, there is a cycle for that. So maybe if we want to start a cycle, we could say that we have started that. So NDC refinement, for example, in this process of ratification, some countries had to do refinements in terms of revisiting or revising their policy options in terms of looking at the impacts of those targets, goals, or policy options, and their sector targets. In the process of submitting the NDCs for ratification, some countries have already started making roadmaps, or what we can also call implementation plans. They have been reviewing institutional and multi-sectoral coordination, stakeholder engagement, etc. All these responding obviously to the different principles and recommendations in the Paris Agreement as well. The next could be the NDC implementation itself. So in this part, countries, I don't need to say much about it, but it is important that countries work on not again, but make stronger enabling environments or enhance the existing ones. So the enabling frameworks, policy, and investment, you still continue identifying and overcoming barriers, identify complementary measures. You still need to mobilize resources, and more importantly, I think you need to work hard on developing your portfolio of actions to be able to achieve your goals stated in your NDCs or INDCs. So here in this cycle is where you can see the linkages between NAMAs, and maybe for the adaptation side, you can use the maps. And then the NDC monitoring and tracking progress, which is also an important part of this as a response to the transparency process as well. So it is, again, an important step, and you can already make the connections of all these elements in the cycle and establish very strong institutional arrangements, so it's responsive also to the transparency process. And eventually, after the 5 years, you will end up with the revision of the NDC, because you are going to start a new cycle. So review the goals again, adjust future plans, and understand gaps and potential benefits or any other challenges that you may face in the next cycle. So in conducting this process, obviously the most important thing also is to consider that in this process, the mainstreaming of climate change will eventually be possible. And when we talk about mainstreaming climate change, we have been always talking about it for the past 22 years. Mm-hmm. We can say that that climate change is mainstreamed. Not yet, but maybe in some sectors it is already, because mainstreaming also means that governments need to allocate a specific budget for climate change. Then the governance side is not one-time work. So it is circular, it is continuous, and the idea is to develop these governance structures and mainly structures that are going to be eventually sustainable in the future. So NAMAs in the NDC cycle, looking from the other angle or making another type of connections. We have been also recommending a lot for countries to develop low carbon development strategies or low emission development strategies. So the connections with NAMAs are made more easily, because we consider that, as the name says, they are actions to be used to implement the strategies. So countries have been working on this widely, also responding to an encouragement by the convention process to do so. As you know, in the Paris Agreement, there is also, I'm not sure if I say recommendation, but for countries to think on long-term low carbon development strategies. I'm already tired at this point, so not connecting the dots properly. But anyways, it is also, the LDCs is still there as a long-term ambition, let's say. So, and while NDCs will have fixed cycles of 5 years, NAMAs can have different periods of implementation. So I don't think countries will easily go away from the notion, at least, of NAMAs. NAMAs will exist there for as actions or vehicles for implementing the NDCs. And actually, many countries have said in their NDCs that they will be achieving their targets through this and that NAMAs. So the connections are naturally there. Next, please. That's another way of representing the linkages between nationally determined contribution and the NAMAs. And well, you cannot avoid also talking about the adaptation side when we mention the nationally determined contribution. And as NAMAs are used as vehicles of implementing the sets, policies, and targets, the long-term plannings, etc. From the adaptation side, you can also use, at least in least developed countries, your NAPAs. So as I said before, this is a combination of top-down and bottom-up processes where MRB systems and finance are cross-cutting elements and important elements as well. So we cannot really defragment all these elements, but we need to think in a comprehensive way, so all the elements are put together nicely. And of this, obviously, the main base is capacity building. It is elsewhere in the Paris Agreement and specifically in Article 11. So from the center, we are also strongly supporting still comprehensive approaches to capacity building. Next, please. So to summarize how we understand the linkages, let's just for us to remind, a NAMA is a mitigation action that is, let's say, not exactly tailored, but to use some term, to the national context, to the national characteristics and capabilities, as well as as integrated into the national sustainable development. That's the most important part, probably, of a NAMA. And countries have been working a lot on also looking at the broader investment plans, so they can connect investment, public investments with potentially emission reductions. Many countries have been trying to put together these two things, especially because of the difficulties of attracting international finance for implementation. So if we can somehow make the connection more easily, the NDCs are of a broad scope. We could say those are the overarching policy frameworks. As I said, it can be economy-wide goals, deviation targets, intensity targets, policy action, etc. But the thing is that they will, from now on, provide the overall framework for mitigation and adaptation approaches in the countries. And from the bottom side, we can still recall the enormous work that has been done by CDM-like projects, and I won't mention all the other results from that. So these also are narrow scope, specific standalone projects, for example, solar and wind power plants, minimum tillage agriculture, energy efficiency, just to cite some of them. So where do they encounter in the middle as a NAMA? And just as an example as well, a NAMA could be setting up a emission trading scheme, implementing or establishing feed-in tariffs for renewable energy, building code standards for energy efficiency, and so on. It depends on the sector and the priority of the country that is thinking on the NAMA. So to support all this process at the center, we are working with, we continue working on supporting capacity building with the thinking we have a concept or a notion of capacity building which needs to be a sustained process of change, especially after the inclusion of transformative change in the NAMA process. So our capacity building framework for NDC implementation considers 3 big areas: enabling conditions, where we work with countries to maybe improve their fiscal policies, to help them with access to finance, improving the legal institutional frameworks, technology support, enhancing conditions for transparency and MRB, etc. So obviously we are not bringing all these elements to a country. Our approach is we want to be loyal to whatever principles are being stated in the Paris Agreement, but not only the Paris Agreement. In the history of the convention, the principles of country-driveness, country ownership, and all that has been of our major interest to keep loyal to those to this principle. So here we are trying to do the same, but we want to have a comprehensive package, a comprehensive framework. So when we go to discuss with a country on how best we can support, we present this and we ask the needs to the countries, and we try to establish a country-tailored program for capacity building. And as I said, it is on the enabling condition side. It can be on the specific portfolio development. And recently, we have incorporated a third element in our work, which is help identify actions or programs or projects to reach bankability. And here, bankability, because many countries would have the need to attract private investment, not only nationally, but also internationally. So they don't depend on bilateral cooperation, because the notion of the NAMAs itself has been understood, in my opinion, in a different perspective from the donor side and the country side. And there is no way of both sitting in a converged let's say consensus or agreement. Donors are asking for very good designed formulation of NAMAs, clearly showing the economics of the NAMAs. This includes obviously the financing structures and all the economic indicators of how this project will be economically sustainable and how it's going to be attractive for investments, etc. On the other hand, governments are thinking of NAMAs as public investment. So public investment don't require, at least at some extent, they are not profit-making investments. So those notions are in parallel. So we need to somehow them to come to the middle. And that is going to be probably done through the inclusion of somehow of the private sector investment. So this is what I wanted to share as some inputs to the session. And this is just some projects we are engaged currently. Maybe just to finalize, I know you are tired. I would like to mention the initiative for climate action transparency is basically an initiative looking at helping national processes for establishing national MRB systems. And it sounds simple, but it is actually a very complicated process. And now many questions remain with regards to how these national MRB systems would be useful for the transparency process. We have been working also with another project, Admire, which is adaptation mitigation readiness. And I would like to mention this because we are, through this project, we are engaging the private sector. And we have identified 14 projects out of 80. So the response has been big, and working with the private sector is a different world. We need to have different vocabulary for them. The center has been working mainly with governments, so we know how to work with them, but the private sector is different. So we are ourselves also developing our capacities by including people with the language and knowledge of how to work with the private sector. And I stop here, so thank you very much. And if you have questions, I'm here to respond.
Okay, thank you very much, Miriam. I'll open the floor for any questions. If there are some of the questions coming from the previous presentations, you can also ask that. Mary, can... Okay, so identify yourself and then ask your question.
Hi. Thank you for your presentations. I'm Pyonghwa Yoon from the Republic of Korea. My question is not limited to the last presentation, but to the previous presentations as well. As I found, NAMA is very interesting, but it seems like there is no slot to report back to the implementation of NAMA. So it'll be highly appreciated if you can explain how donor countries can find those implementations actually happened on ground and the result of mitigation. Maybe I do not know how you're going to put the results in numbers, but if that's possible, then whether you're going into showing the results in numbers. Okay, so the bottom line is, I want to ask the way to show the results of implementation of NAMAs. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any additional question, comment? Yes.
Sorry, I was a little bit.
Yeah, it's on.
I was a little bit late, so I didn't catch the first presentation. Was on the NDC registry, I suppose. Yeah, totally missed that. So, if you could just share maybe some of the difficulties or where you think might be some possible ways to improve what's on the registry right now, that would be nice. Thanks.
Okay. Good. Okay, so we would just start. Miriam, want to respond to?
It was regarding the results in the countries of mitigation actions.
Gopal can also take that. I mean, you don't need to respond.
No, it's fine, but I'm not sure if I took it right, the question, but it will depend on the country how to set the whole system to register if you want the results of the mitigation actions. For the CDM, it has been a process. For NAMAs, it's been other. Some countries have established national registries apart from the registry at the secretariat. So, but it has happened everything so quick that countries are in the process. So I'm sure that it is not work wasted or time wasted. They will eventually modify or use this to establish ways of measuring, making accountings and all that. But it will also respond to what now in the negotiations will be decided with regards to modalities and procedures for accounting the results. I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but that's my...
Okay, never mind. Gopal, do you want to respond before Vlad?
Yes, I would like to respond to the question regarding how you can report back the implementation of NAMA in terms of its results and its associated other benefits. So as mentioned by the Miriam, if you are talking about the UNFCCC process-related MRB systems, there are different channels like national communication, biannual update reports, or other communication which is under the MRB system. So one way is to report under that reports and to showcase your progress or impacts of the implementation of those kind of mitigation actions. Or at the same time, if you are talking about the NAMA registry specifically, then there is at the moment we don't have such a one specific template or section for the implementation or showing or explaining the impacts of the implementation of those actions. But for now, you can upload as a document if you have produce any kind of report or any accounting documents. You can submit in your NAMA entries section as an attachment to as a progress or as a implementation report. But in the future, we are also thinking based on the views expressed by the parties or suggestions received from the parties, we could think a specific section under each NAMA to display, to showcase or to report what is happening with the recorded NAMAs in terms of emission or implementation or other associated benefits. So that could be introduced in future. But for now, as a attached document, we can upload to showcase the implementation.
Good. Vlad?
Okay. I will ask Gopal to put a little bit the people that came late a little bit. I will try to do a summary in 1 minute of what we presented. So basically, we have this is the page of the NDC registry, the interim registry that was created in May. We had some comments from parties and some comments from the public on it. Before the session in Marrakesh, we managed to introduce some changes. Now you can see if you have worked a little bit or looked on the interim registry before. Now you can see that there is a counter on the lower right side. Showing live real time how many parties. Then the big change maybe is the search functionality that allows you to check on parties or on keywords and go directly to the place in where you can see this search words, and also some additional information that was provided. You can see on the top on the NDC information. Now there are some links that goes to the Paris Agreement or the way to communicate the NDCs. Also, if you look on the bottom, you can see now that it's very easy to move from to see the NDCs submitted. You can move from one party to another. You can see all of them by going on the letter related to the specific party. So these were the changes to make the registry more user friendly and to make it more accessible. Now you can go on your mobile device and be able to browse the portal. So we try to listen to the users and introduce these changes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. I think this is what we can have. Already too late. So join me in thanking the panelists for the presentations. And okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so I think I would also want to thank you for spending the time with us. It's already late. I know many of us got in here early in the morning. So thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it was a nice presentation.
Thank you.
It's part of it. Yes.
Yeah. That's such. No, but the way to make the way to make the portal. So yeah, because there were some problems on